This presentation is about choosing your approach to develop a translation specialism. Besides the expectations of quality and ethics, what else is associated with becoming a professional translator? In her examination of the differences between elite and non-elite translators, Selashefi says that professional identity is a powerful resource that helps define its boundaries and maintain hierarchies within it, the profession that is. And these hierarchies will impact a translator's ability to attract consistent work and earn good rates of pay. Professionalism requires the translator to take control of his or her own professional development, especially as the field of translation is much less structured than other professions such as medicine, law, or business. Extra-linguistic competences in other knowledge areas are just as important as skills, such as IT, negotiation, and time management, besides their ability to translate. So why is it vital to specialize? Both translation agencies and clients on community-based freelance websites are seeking translators that specialize in order to achieve a higher quality output. Bucco estimates that 60% of translation work, for example, will be under one of the many technology specialisms. This figure, interestingly, also correlates to Byrne's survey and classification of the various translation specialisms currently in use. So, what should be considered when choosing a specialism? Well, that depends on the translator's individual circumstances. One way would be to specialize in an area of co-study that can be followed concurrently with translator training. Of course, this isn't feasible or desirable for many students, and it could be difficult to anticipate a suitable specialization in translation without any exposure to the profession in advance. Instead, if applicable, one could choose areas of expertise based on their previous career experience. An obvious benefit of this approach is that the translator already has familiarity with expert terminology in the target language. However, this knowledge can become out of date, and, as is common to all specializations, certain areas can become obsolete if it's too specific. This option is also not available to students coming directly from a degree with no previous work experience. So where does that leave newly qualified translators without a previous profession? Well, they can take low-paying or volunteer jobs to develop their experience, the positive side of which is that they can seek work in their areas of interest. But the negative side is that it might be difficult to find those opportunities in many specialisms, even for free, due to the client's lack of faith in their abilities. This also requires a level of financial independence not available to many people. Another option would be to acquire de facto specialisms, which are kind of left to chance depending on the jobs that they obtain throughout their initial work experience. But this essentially is a non-choice. An alternative to developing a specialism through experience would be the corpus-based approach by Maher. This uses one of two information technology tools to help translators to rapidly assimilate monolingual term bases. It consists of compiling a large number of target language texts in the interested field into a database, and then using either an indexing application, which mines a given database for similar words or phrases, or a concordancer, which looks for keywords in context in order to assist translation choices. The concordancer app is perhaps more useful in that it provides greater ability to see the context of the word usage, but it requires more setup time and cleaning up text files before being able to use by the app. The benefits are the quick startup time and low-cost barrier to becoming operational as a specialized translator, but it might be difficult to find or gain access to the texts necessary to create your desired databases. Maher even notes that translators working in specialist fields are less likely to have received formal translation training. From the academic point of view, this might seem that this approach would level the playing field for translators coming out of a university setting. If the translator is able to compile a good corpus of relevant texts and employ the tools, it would likely be very useful in some situations. However, the primary problem with this approach to building specialist vocabulary is that it addresses only half of the knowledge necessary to produce a quality translation. While the corpus can provide the terminology used by experts in a specialist field, it cannot help with the translator's lack of real subject knowledge. Regardless of the availability of expert terminology, If a translator is not able to understand the concepts in the source text, he or she will not likely be able to produce an adequate translation. So, best practice would seem to be focusing on developing specialisms prior to initiating one's career as a translator. If this is begun during the course of study, it's presumably a time in which the person has already dedicated a period of time and accepted the fact that he or she will be less economically productive. Though this will still require on-the-job training post-graduation, the translation student can receive high-quality guidance and feedback from experienced professors and mentors. The drawbacks are that time, as always, is limited, and so the translation specialisms offered must be few, and they will necessarily depend on the professor's own areas of specialism. To make up for this, translation students can begin by developing their own personal development plan, which provides for further study and/or knowledge acquisition in their preferred specialisms. The personal development plan not only puts the ownership of specialisms back in the hands of the translator, it also allows time for self-assessment and targeted plans for self-improvement. So in conclusion, the key factor of the PDP is that it should be created with the mindset that it will be used and revised periodically throughout one's career. This will allow a strategic view in planning for professional development in cognate areas, that is, related fields of expertise, helping to avoid the risk of becoming out of date or obsolete. Translators can continually align their current abilities with the acquisition of new skills in a targeted specialism, and most importantly, takes an introspective evaluation and planning exercise and relates it to the real world in an applicable and practical way.